Well, it's great to be back to with the Iraqi Kurdish people and to be back on Kurdistan 24. Look, I think I'm always delighted to hear of news of good U.S. firms getting a piece of business, be it in Kurdistan or elsewhere in Iraq. In this case, I think it's really important. It's very significant. The numbers that you've quoted are really quite striking. So I think it's good news for everybody. So look, everybody in the region and globally are concerned with the prospect of peak oil, as they say. And that means, so there are a couple of things. One, the US wants stable, productive energy markets. This is also in the interests of Iraq to develop these assets. And they are all the more important in this period of time when people are looking to exploit as many of their energy assets as possible at a good price. And these energy ties also, I think, frankly, produce another net benefit, which is beyond the energy security piece, which is it's a thickening of ties between the US and Iraq, between the US and the KR and the Iraqi Kurdistan. I think that's also a very good thing. Hard to say at this point. I think there have been a number of political and legal issues which have produced this stoppage in the ITP. It's been an issue that the Biden administration worked on with the governments, and I would certainly hope to see some forward momentum, if not by these deals, by a measure of political will to see these resumption of these exports. I think it comes not so much from the US. I mean, the US has always been willing to lend its good offices, its support to a productive dialogue, but ultimately, this is between Iraq and Turkey and of course the KRG. No, yes, of course. I don't mean there's no interest on the part of the US. I'm saying it doesn't rely on the US for this to occur. It relies on the three governments to come to a good set of agreements. But of course, the U.S. has an interest in seeing this pipeline resume its exports. Well, look, any business leadership looks at whether this is a good bet. Is it going to be a good return on their investment? Are the conditions, be they security or political or legal conditions, there to ensure that the investment that's made will ultimately be recouped? So this does seem to be a vote of confidence by these firms, which is a good thing. So I think at the start of every administration, and you see it with the Trump administration, there's a settling in period, and there is a sort of stacking of priorities. And you saw last week the president making a visit to the three Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE. That does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that the administration has no interest in the rest of the region. And I would fully expect that the prime minister's visit comes in the context of the administration looking at the wider perspective and looking in particular at its interests and American interests, longstanding interests in Iraq. So I think this is an important visit, to say the least. That's true. That's true. I've spent years of my professional life working on issues that are either directly related to Iraq or that have some indirect relationship to Iraq. And for 20 some years now, since US forces toppled Saddam Hussein, that that set of interests, that continuity of interests on the part of Washington, regardless of the president who was seated at the time, has been constant. And it has been constant even following the December 2011 departure of US combat troops. As I and many other senior officials said at the time to many people who were very concerned, some of Iraq's neighbors were deeply concerned at the prospect of US forces moving out of Iraq. As I said at the time, as the Secretary of State and others said at the time, the departure of US combat forces from a country does not mean the end of a relationship, the curtailing or the diminution of the economic and diplomatic relationship. In fact, it may be that you see the expansion of those relations in a different light. So we still have training forces who are in Iraq at the invitation of the government. But we have a whole set of diplomatic and economic interests that run in parallel to whatever the size and whatever the mission of a particular US military force. I am, but I think here's what's different now. You have a new administration, a new president. He's been very blunt about his views on long duration or large presence of U.S. forces overseas. He's looking at that around the world. He wants to see, is the mission still important? Is it still important to do the mission through these forces or this size of forces? He wants to see what the countries, in this case Iraq, are bringing to the relationship. It doesn't mean that he's going to decide to bring all U.S. forces out, but he will want to see how that fits into the benefits for the United States. I think for me, it's a pretty easy argument to make. We are continuing a very vital mission to make sure that Iraq's forces, wherever they may be, whether it's Iraqi security forces, the Peshmerga, that they have the capabilities for the defense of the people and the ability to fight any recurrence of terrorism, for instance, Daesh. Look, I think his visit to the Gulf it laid out one set of priorities that are very clear. He's also previously made it clear that getting to a good agreement with Iran was another high priority. I think it's now incumbent on Iraq's leaders to lay out the strategic benefits of this relationship to both parties, to Iraq, to the United States. Each president needs to be reminded of that. So you're absolutely right that there has been this very strong, almost separate people to people set of ties that go back 30 some years. And those ties still exist, and you find people in many parts of Washington who have been part of that relationship. And of course, Kurdish forces fought tenaciously, heroically in the fight to rescue the whole country from the attacks by Daesh. So you have both the long-running ties between the Iraqi Kurds and America, and then you have the most recent examples of how those people and those forces have contributed to security not only for Iraq, but in doing so for global security. So I think that is still a very important part of the picture. Yes, it's there are many economic potential opportunities, and wherever we see businesses, American businesses, stake out interests and activities and join with local partners, that builds another layer of ties, which are quite important. It's not only about profits, that builds another kind of people to people ties. Well, I certainly hope not. But I will say this is something that I think the Prime Minister, His Excellency, will feel himself as he goes around Washington, as he talks to members of Congress, as he goes to think tanks and other important parts of Washington and the government itself. This is a new administration. It has many different voices. Some of them are more isolationist in nature. That's a dynamic that has been historically part of the American political landscape. It was a much smaller voice years ago. It's not, it's much more prominent now. It is not to say that it is the overriding most powerful voice, but it has its impact. So what I'm saying is that the generations of Kurdish leaders, uh, Kakmasud, Mam Jalal, and the other Kurdish leaders today, they have forged very strong leadership relations, but also people to people relations over the course of 30 some years. And I think those are still very strong bonds. And it was a wise thing to do. But what I'm also saying is that, just as I said earlier, every new president needs to be reminded by the people of the region, of these different countries, what the relationship is about and how it fulfills mutual interests. In the same way, it's worth being aware that there is a component of this administration which is very isolationist, which is less inclined to have entangling alliances and involvements in many foreign countries. So I don't, I'm not aware that there was a discussion as such about Iraqi Kurdistan. I think at each stop he had the opportunity to hear from the Gulf leaders about their perspective on regional issues, and that would surely include Iraq, just as it would include Iran and Syria and Lebanon and of course Gaza and Israel. So I have no doubt that Iraq featured in these discussions. I am not aware that Iraqi Kurdistan featured in those discussions, but it's possible. So of course the building, the design, the building of that consulate has been many years in the making. And I think it reflected, at the time that it was designed, it reflected very clearly the stake that the US had in the continuing importance, stability, security, prosperity of Iraqi Kurdistan. I think that's still the case, that the US has such an interest. And in a sense, this consulate will be a physical reminder of that. So this is an issue, I'll touch on an issue that I'm usually asked about, maybe less now than I was 5 years ago. But I think it's still the case that we see the best vantage point for Iraqi Kurdish interests and Iraq's own interests lying in a unified Iraq wherein Iraqi Kurds have a fullest measure of the ability to manage their own affairs and to live their lives in a high degree of self governance. And this has been a point of dispute at times within Iraq. Certainly, there have been times in the past when relations between Erbil and Baghdad were really bitter. And I, for one, am very glad to see that both the Prime Minister and the President of Iraqi Kurdistan have put so much effort into really stabilizing and bettering those relations with Baghdad. And I think it will only give greater dividends, peace dividends, but also dividends of prosperity and security for the people of Iraqi Kurdistan, as well as for federal Iraq. Look, when the first time I served in Iraq was in Basra in 2010 to 2011. And I remember at the time that the Basrawiyin, the people of Basra, were very keen to see the kind of benefits of federalism as they saw Iraqi Kurds enjoying. And I remember at the time that when I talked to Iraqi politicians, especially those in Baghdad, federalism was a bad word from them, from their perspective. They thought it could only mean secession. And of course, the American experience is something very positive in general. And it's one we think it's a model that we think can be adapted to many different cultures and allows communities a high degree of self-governance while still contributing to larger security, stability, prosperity of the whole country. And indeed, there are many reasons, as we both know, that there has been friction between Erbil and Baghdad, most often about revenue sharing, about the dispersal of both the budgetary allocations, but also how the energy resources are shared and sorted. But I think it's still the case that relations are much, much better now than they were at any point that I can think of in the past. And that's a good thing for both sides. That shows leadership.